Great. So today's presentation is called SMSF Illuminated, where we'll be shedding some light on self-managed super funds and on our Stake Super product. Now, I believe most of you on the session today have been referred by a family or friend who's already a Stake Super customer. And we did promise a reward to those customers if they had some registered candidates. So if you could please pop the first name and the initial of the second name into the chat box and direct that message directly to the host, just so that we can ensure that they do get the reward that we promised to them for sharing the word about Stake Super and this webinar today. So first of all, let's get the formalities out of the way. The information contained in the presentation today is general in nature and should not be taken as an inducement to set up a self-managed super fund or as personal financial advice. Now, looking at our agenda, we'll start with a bit of introduction on myself and Stake Super. We'll be debunking some long-held SMSF myths that you may have heard of. We'll talk a little bit about Stake Super, about the process about setting up an SMSF, and talking about a little bit of an offer that we'll have at the end of the session. And finally, we'll end the presentation with some questions and answers. So any questions you have throughout the session, pop in that chat box, and I'll go through them at the end. That's definitely the best part, in my opinion. And please don't be shy in asking any questions. Right, so my name is Ciara Conway, and I'm an SMSF Product Specialist here at Stake. I've been working in the SMSF industry now since 2013, so about 10 years. I started as an SMSF accountant. I've worked for some small SMSF admin firms along with very large ones in Australia. So worked across audit administration as well as client service. I joined Stake Super in February of last year, so just coming up to a year and a half. I was fortunate enough to get a position here, as I was really excited about what they were doing with the industry and trying to change the messaging out there about self-managed super funds. I've got an MA in Accountancy and Finance from Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, where I studied. So when I came over to Australia to live, that really sort of was the reason I got into SMSF accounting in the first place. And I'm really passionate about providing high quality accounts and a reliable SMSF experience for our Stake Super customers. Okay, so what is an SMSF? Some of you might be asking yourselves. Well, an SMSF, for those of you who aren't aware, it's a private super fund that you own and control with the sole purpose of providing income for retirement. An SMSF can have up to 6 members in a fund, so anywhere between 1 and 6 members. 2-member funds are actually the most popular in Australia. I believe almost 70% of funds are 2 members, generally maybe spouses. But also you can add other family members or friends to the fund if you wish. There are 2 types of trustees to choose from when setting up an SMSF. There's an individual trustee or corporate trustee type. At Stake Super, we default the setup to a corporate structure, which has many benefits over individual from a legal point of view. An SMSF always must have separate accounts and investments. So it's always very separate to your personal portfolio or businesses or anything like that. It's its own entity. And from a compliance perspective, annual end of financial year accounts, financial statements, an annual return needs to be lodged, and an independent audit is also required. And all of this stuff is really where Stake Super come in, and our accounting team look after all of these aspects on our customers' behalf. And SMSF trustees can choose their own investments and or strategy. So you really have full control over the investments in the fund. Okay, let's start debunking some SMSF myths. The first one here, which is the one that gets raised with me the most often if I'm chatting to my friends or even my family about self-managed super funds, it's I need at least 200K in super to start an SMSF. The short answer is it really does depend. And this figure was largely based on one thing, the percentage of fees. The fees as a percentage of your portfolio in running that SMSF. There is no statutory minimum requirement, However, along with a whole bunch of various reasons or factors are considered by the ATO when registering an SMSF. So it's not just the balance, and there's no set minimum requirement. We do know that the cost of setting up and running an SMSF has come down considerably, particularly with some administrators in the space. So competitors has really helped bring down those management fees. And it's the fees as a percentage of the total balance, which is important here. So it's across all members of the fund, as generally speaking, SMSF management fees are charged per fund and not per members. And also, as your super grows, generally the cost effectiveness of running that SMSF increases. Our next myth: SMSFs are for the older generation. So when we hear about SMSFs, generally speaking, or maybe it's just me, we tend to think about those approaching retirement, or our parents, or even our grandparents, so those types of generations that have an SMSF. However, it's really great to hear that the demographics have been shifting in recent years, and 30% of all new SMSF establishments in the 22 financial year were aged between 35 to 44. And this stat was sourced from the Class Annual Benchmark Report last year. We also aware from the research out there that the drive to be self-directed is really true of all ages. So to have control over their superannuation doesn't really apply just to the elderly or those approaching retirement, but also to younger people. There's a lot more information out there. There's a lot more digital access as well to investments. So that's definitely having a factor on the demographics shifting. SMSFs have been slow to evolve, but can now be a seamless, fully digital experience. And I'll get into that a little bit later on in the session when I talk about Stake Super's product. Annual accounting and audit fees are $5,000 or above. Now, this $5,000 figure was actually taken from the ATO statistical report from 2020 financial year. And if you do your research in the area, the accounting and audit fees can change dramatically depending on who you approach. They really vary hugely. We do know that the advancement in SMSF accounting technology has significantly helped reduce the man-hours required to reconcile the SMSF transactions each year and prepare those financials and tax return. So that has really helped prices come down. And this is proven in the Rice-Warner research report, The Cost of Operating SMSFs 2020, which showed that fees had fallen consistently over the last 7 years. We also know, and we've proven this through our own product, that bundling all administrative responsibilities creates efficiency. And so having the improvements in technology that are helping reducing those costs, having everything all in one place, really helps increase efficiency. Stake Super's annual fee, which starts at $990 a year, is well below this average amount of $5,000, which is cited in that ATO report I mentioned. And I have to be a stock market savant or property mogul to have an SMSF. Well, you definitely don't have to be the Wolf of Wall Street to start an SMSF. However, it may not be for everyone, and you must have, an interest in having control or investing your super in to some degree. And you also have the option to seek financial advice as well. The benefit of SMSFs is that they do provide the freedom to diversify as you wish, giving you the opportunity to invest your retirement savings in the asset classes of your choice and to suit your needs. And in regards to property, we probably have heard of people setting up an SMSF for the sole purpose of purchasing a property within their fund. However, we know that only 30% of all SMSFs in Australia hold property in the 22 financial year. So it's definitely not the majority of funds. Okay, let's take a look at Stake Super and shed some light on our product. So SMSFs aren't new at all. They've been around a very long time. However, they've always deemed to be complex or expensive. So our mission in creating Stake Super was to deliver Australia's most hassle-free SMSF. And we do this by being a one-stop SMSF shop, combining the SMSF administration and audit and compliance requirements, along with our investment trading platform that you may already be familiar with. Looking at Stake Super in a nutshell, you deal with one partner. So having the platform combined with our in-house accountants and that compliance aspect really makes it a lot simpler for our trustees, as they just speak to the one person and we can draw the dots together. Seamless access to the markets. So on our Stake platform, you have access to over 8,000 ASX and US equities on Stake. Or you also have the option to invest your superannuation more broadly in asset ranges with Stake Super Plus outside of the Stake Super platform, which I'll also go into in further detail later on. Our Stake Super offering is a full service administration. So you can enjoy the full SMSF establishment along with the annual accounting, auditing and taxation requirements for one low and competitive annual fee. And you deal with one team of SMSF experts and invest with confidence. Our ASX holdings are CHESS sponsored and our US holdings are SIPC insured. Okay, so looking at the wide range of investments available for your SMSF with Stake Super, as I mentioned, on the Stake platform, we offer access to the US and ASX equities along with over-the-counter stocks. But we also can look after the admin for SMSFs that wish to invest in property, for instance, manage funds, cryptocurrency also with external platforms. Precious metals, we also have some funds holding those types of investments. So that would be gold or silver bullion to diversify the portfolio. And business ventures, if you're interested in, for instance, a startup to invest your super in those types of investments. So it really is wide ranging. As long as it's allowable within the fund, we can look after the administration. Our motto here at Stake Super is you invest, we handle the rest. Now, your annual fee covers the compliance aspects of having an SMSF, as I mentioned previously. So each year, we prepare the SMSF end of financial year financial statements. We also prepare and lodge the SMSF annual return that's required by the tax office. So we actually act as the tax agent to lodge and prepare that for you. There's no need to approach an external tax agent once you join Stake Super. We look after and facilitate the independent annual SMSF audit. So again, in line with the regulations, all of the SMSFs are required to be audited annually, but it must be by an independent auditor, so not part of Stake. We prepare and provide annual member statements, providing a breakdown of your SMSF accounts, but also providing a breakdown of each member's benefits or superannuation balance at the end of the year. We provide annual investment performance reports, including a summary of the investments, the transaction, capital gains reports, and investment income reports. We also lodge activity statements, which could include BAS or PAYG. And we prepare annual trustee resolutions and minutes. So in the case where you have a corporate trustee for your fund, we act as the ASIC agent for that company. Okay, so taking a look at our packages, we offer a really cost-effective annual fee without compromising on quality or service. So our most popular package is our Stake Super package, which is priced at $990 per year. And that covers all of the full administration and audit service that I've mentioned previously. Now, this package applies for SMSFs that have all of their assets on the Stake platform. So you choose the assets as you wish, but all of them must be on the Stake platform. Now, in the case where you want to invest your super in assets that I've mentioned outside of the Stake platform, so that could be, for example, property, other brokers, unlisted shares or companies. Now that annual fee is $2,490 a year and also includes that full administration and audit service. So if you are interested further in starting your own SMSF, this is just an overview of the process of how it all works and what we look after as part of our service when you join Stake Super to set up an SMSF. So the first step there is submitting an initial application to us. Takes about 5 minutes to complete the application, where you can enter in your details, decide on what you want to name your fund, just anything we need to get going with the setup. Once we receive your application, the first step for our team is to create the company that acts as the corporate trustee of your SMSF, and we appoint all members that you choose to be within the fund as directors of that company. Once the company is registered, which is within, definitely the same day, but very quickly, we prepare the establishment docs, which includes the trust deed, along with some required minutes and resolutions, and send that out to the members for signing via digital signing. Once we receive those signed documents back, we then go ahead and apply for the ABN and the tax file number for the SMSF. As I mentioned, they're very independent from any other entities that you may be part of. And at this point, we wait for the ATO to register the SMSF as a compliant super fund. Now, generally speaking, the time for the ATO to register the fund can vary. We can see it can take anywhere between about a week to a few weeks, and it really depends on individual circumstances. Once the ATO has registered the fund, we right away open up the Stake Super trading account, and we can start the rollover process. So the members complete an online form, entering the existing super fund details that they wish to roll over their super from, and we initiate that from our end. Now, once your super is transferred into the Stake Super account, you can then start investing and start taking charge of your super with full control over your investments. Now, if any of you on this session today already has an SMSF, perhaps, and they're maybe considering transferring the admin across to Stake Super, there is a slightly different process. But again, the initial step will be completing a really simple application form where we collect some of your main contact details. We have a dedicated SMSF team that will then work with your previous administrator or accountant, collecting those documents to support the SMSF admin transfer. If you've got any portfolios outside of the Stake platform, so perhaps with other brokers that you wish to transfer to Stake, we also have a dedicated team that can assist with that. It's a fully digital experience. And we are also offering the first year $990, regardless if you've got assets outside of the Stake platform for the first year. And this really allows some flexibility and some time for the members of trustees to transfer assets to the Stake platform if they wish to keep that price at $990 going forward. Now, and I'm also glad to mention that we're currently running an end of financial year offer, so that if you sign up to Stake Super before 30 June, so you've got a few weeks left, you'll get a $150 discount off your first annual fee. So for that Stake Super package, the initial fee will come down to $840. That includes the setup of the SMSF along with the first year financials and tax return lodgement. Or if you want to sign up to Stake Super Plus, that would bring the fees down to $2,340 for the first year. Great. Well, that brings us to the question and answer section of today's webinar. Now, so if anyone wants to pop any questions they may have that you've been thinking about before today's session, or if you've thought of anything that came up, I may have forgotten to mention things throughout the way, so please feel free to pop your question into the meeting chat, and I'm more than happy to answer those for you. And please don't be shy. Ask me anything you like. So the first question has come through, and that is how the audit works with stake. Great question. So every financial year, we review sort of which auditors we work with. So we're actually going through that process currently for the next financial year. And essentially, we just have an agreement at the beginning of the year that we'll send them a certain portion of audits, and they get really familiar, for instance, with our platform, and it makes the process really consistent, but they audit the financials and tax return independently. We simply prepare all the documents that they need, include any supportive documents to prove the investments and transactions throughout the year. And the auditor independently audits that and gets back to us when the audit's complete, and we inform the customer. Another question, is support available over the phone as a member? That's actually a really great question. It hasn't come up before in these sessions, but I think it's really important. So we do offer a callback service. So we have a link which should be included in a follow-up email sent to all our attendees in the session today, where you can book in a call back with one of our team members based here in our Sydney office. Now, we also have a direct customer support line for the entire stake business available, and they can redirect any questions that you have or calls to the Stake Super team directly. And as always, if you want to ask a simple question that you don't need to speak to a team member over the phone, our direct email address is smsf@hellostake.com. Any of those emails come through directly to the Stake Super team and can be addressed by us. Another question, when the contributions get loaded to ATO or updated? So for employer contributions, by law, they come through a clearinghouse that's run by the ATO called SuperStream, and that is compulsory. So any of those come through, we use a sophisticated accounting software that would receive that SuperStream event, and it's reconciled in the account. So when a contribution comes in, we know exactly that it is an employer contribution and which member it relates to. In the case where you may want to make extra contributions to the fund, so personal concessional contributions or personal non-concessional contributions, at the end of the financial year, we will always reach out to the members to get their confirmation on what their intention was with that contribution and how they want to treat it. Or another way that we can identify would be from the description on the deposit. So it could mention the initials of the member. But if we're ever in doubt, our accountants will reach out to you at the end of the financial year. And also for personal concessional contributions, this does come up a fair bit with our customers, but we do also prepare the notice of intent forms that are required for your individual tax purposes. Next question. Is there an age limit for when you can join? We don't have an age limit. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, it comes down to, how much super they have, along with other circumstances, and that's reviewed by the tax office. We don't necessarily review that. We also don't provide financial advice, so we can't state what age will be right for a person. But short answer, we don't have an age limit to join. Another question. I have a stake SMSF, but we do not. Sorry, it's jumping a little bit. Sorry about that. I have a stake SMSF, but we do not even have the direct read, access, or control on bank account linked with the SMSF. Is there a reason behind it? So that's a great question, Sandeep. So the SMSF bank account is essentially all included on the stake platform. So your access to it is via when you log into your stake account, you view your whole portfolio, including that cash bank account. And you can make deposits and withdrawals directly when you log into your stake account. We do partner with Airwallex for that bank account element currently. So it's really directly through stake. That's just the back-end partnership. So hopefully that's answered your question correctly. But Sandeep, if you've got any concerns, feel free to email us at smsf@hellostake.com, and I'm happy to chat to you directly. Another question. Also, how does the property investment and accounting work with stake? Yeah, that's a good question, because property questions do often come up a lot as well, as people are sort of planning ahead or thinking about options later on. So when you have found a property that you want to invest in, all of that conveyancing, etc., is very external to stake. That would be done outside of stake super services. But when you need to perhaps pay a deposit or pay any sort of settlement funds, all of the funds for that SMSF property should come out of your SMSF account directly. And we can help you along the way with that. Similarly, once the property is purchased, any rental income or expenses should definitely come through the SMSF account so we can reconcile it accurately. At the end of the financial year, you may be required to provide an update on the property valuation, along with all of those rental income statements and any expenses statements, so that all of the expenses and income for the property can be reconciled and supported for audit purposes. And also, if you wish to borrow within your SMSF to purchase a property, that is possible. It does need to be done what's called under a limited recourse borrowing arrangement. Now at Stake Super, we can definitely help set up that limited recourse borrowing arrangement. There's an additional fee of $1,199 for the setup of that. It's a one-off fee, but that ensures that your fund remains compliant. We prepare all of the legal documents and create a bare trust company that's required for that purpose as well. Another question to clarify, you do the intention to claim form for members rather than the members having to do it themselves. Yes, that's correct. So we'll provide that once we've confirmed, when our accountants are preparing your end of financial year statements. Once we've confirmed that there is in fact personal concessional contributions made to the fund, we'll automatically prepare that notice of intent form and provide it to you along with the financials and other statements. However, we do have some customers that have the notice of intent prepared on 1st of July, and they can provide that to us as well, and we can slip it in to support the treatment of the contribution, but we can provide it. So we're flexible if customers want to provide it to us, but rest assured we also will provide it when necessary as well. So that's some great questions that have come through. Any other last minute ones anyone wants to pop in that I can go through before we finish up? So I should mention at this point as well, you will all receive an email within the next few days with a recording of this session, a bit more info on that end of financial year discount that we're offering as well. And if you've got any questions, you can respond to that email or email us directly at smsf@hellostake.com. Or even if you want to speak to me directly, you can email us and ask. We're more than happy to do so. As I do know from previous webinars, different people have different circumstances that they want to talk to specifically and not share in the chat, which is completely understandable. So we're more than happy to accommodate and have a chat. Great. Well, I think that wraps up the Q&A session as well for today. Thank you very much for asking those questions. It's always insightful. And thank you again for joining our webinar today. We finally got there in the end after that technical hitch up at the beginning, but thanks so much for your patience. And we hope you've learned a little bit more about SMSFs and Stake Super today. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.